Hey everyone, and welcome to Boston Autoblog. Today we're taking a look at the 2024 Volkswagen Atlas SEL R-Line. This is a top trim, well-equipped model. And in this video, we're going to do an in-depth review of this three-row crossover and flagship for the Volkswagen brand. We have taken a look at the Honda Pilot, we've also taken a look at the Jeep Grand Cherokee L, but the Atlas is a completely different proposition. This is a vehicle that gives you some European styling, European engineering, and driving dynamics, but also, in my mind, might be one of the best values out there, especially in this segment and for a top trim at around $55,000. Now, before we get in this video, I'd like to thank Quirk Volkswagen in Braintree, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below so you can check out their extensive Volkswagen inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. The existence of the Volkswagen Atlas represents the ever-evolving mainstream three-row crossover market, as the Kia Telluride, Hyundai Palisade, and to a lesser extent the Honda Pilot all played a role in the desire and need for a legitimate 6- and 7-row passenger vehicle that's large enough to accommodate families and their luggage. Replacing the Touareg in the lineup last decade, the Atlas quickly ascended to the top in terms of annual sales for the Volkswagen brand, as its size and pricing was rather compelling compared to the Tiguan, while also predominantly being engineered for family use above everything else. Its no-nonsense approach to this segment was enough to get the ball rolling, but now for 2024, Volkswagen made some key improvements to make the Atlas even more competitive against rivals. Starting off with pricing, the model we have today is the SEL R-Line, coming in at just under $52,500, and is the top trim for 2024. This mid-cycle refresh comes on the heels of a rather significant shift in consumer demand for three-row crossovers, as the Toyota Grand Highlander and Jeep Grand Cherokee L are more than just land yachts for the mainstream market. Buyers want luxury and technology, two qualities that were only found from companies such as BMW or Mercedes-Benz. The 2024 model year visually expresses these changes, especially for higher trims, such as the SEL, thanks to the light bar that runs the length of the front fascia and integrates into the LED daytime running light design. Trendy, but mostly seen on luxury vehicles, is the illuminated emblem on the grille that really brings out the gloss black accents for the R-Line. While mechanically there's no drastic changes that makes the Atlas sportier, the cosmetic refresh adds some dynamic undertones to the design, especially for the front bumper with the sharper body lines that was lacking in prior model years. Moving over to the side profile, the R-Line will be sitting on 21-inch alloy wheels, further enhancing the striking looks for the Atlas. For the test drive, however, we had an SEL with the smaller 20-inch wheels, which is still a decent size for a crossover in this market, and the Atlas was able to handle imperfections in the road relatively well for a three-row SUV. You'll have body color folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, as part of the refresh, you now have a light bar design that runs the length of the rear fascia, providing symmetry to the overall look of the Atlas. Gloss black accents do make their way on the final third for the rear diffuser, with brushed aluminum cutouts in the bumper. Keeping in mind that the Atlas is still a family hauler, it is boxier in shape, more so than the Tiguan. And while some may find vehicles in this market to be less than visually appealing, this crossover's sole purpose is to be that upgrade for someone ready to hop out of the Tiguan. And at least from a design perspective, Volkswagen achieved that with this model. Under the hood, the Atlas for 2024 is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 269 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission. As we've seen from rival brands, Volkswagen no longer offers the V6 for this three-row crossover, but the likelihood of you missing the larger powertrain is non-existent, as the Atlas manages to reach 60 miles per hour in a very respectable 7.5 seconds. Between the available torque at your disposal and a playful automatic transmission, you won't be lulled to sleep when getting behind the wheel. Yet with that being said, the Atlas is primarily designed for hauling a family, and the softer suspension reflects its place in the market, despite its sporty and enticing exterior design. For 2024, all-wheel drive does come standard for better year-round versatility, and when it pertains to fuel economy, you're looking at right around 20 miles per gallon in the city, and 27 miles per gallon on the highway. For this refreshed Atlas, the interior is just as impressive as the new exterior looks. And while Volkswagen has been criticized in recent years for their updated head unit, there's no mistaking that the cabin for this 3-row crossover is fitting for a flagship model. While we all know that the Volkswagen family of brands typically part share, the Atlas is unique in a sense, where the ambiance and driving environment is exclusively for Volkswagen, and this vehicle doesn't feel like a stripped-down Audi. Even in regards to comfort, the power-adjustable, heated, and ventilated leather seats sets a tone for what you'll experience on longer commutes and road trips, and that's further enhanced by the wood grain trim on the dashboard, as the Atlas has a very reserved and somewhat posh interior, while at the same time still displaying that it's not a rebadged Audi Q7. In front of you, there will be a full digital gauge cluster, also known as Volkswagen's virtual cockpit, which for a crossover in this market brings a resolution and intuitiveness you'd typically find in more expensive German luxury vehicles. Unlike on the GTI and Golf R, you won't have haptic feedback buttons on the steering wheel, which is a welcome subtraction for the Atlas from a user-friendliness perspective. This display is fully customizable, where you can scroll through different layouts, showcase the navigation map, and access vehicle info that's relevant to you. On higher trims for this crossover, you will have a head-up display that's easy to read and adjustable, with the settings being embedded in the head unit. As we transition to the infotainment system, you'll have a 12-inch touchscreen, with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to go along with onboard navigation, and for the R-Line, we have the Harman Kardon Premium Audio System. With a lack of physical buttons, it will take some time to get acclimated with this screen, as some features and vehicle settings are embedded in the menus. And with no dials to control the dual-zone climate control, that too is only accessible through the screen. Easing you into this new user interface is the responsiveness, as there's no lagging with this screen, and generally, you can find what you're looking for relatively quickly. A nice touch that helps set the mood is the ambient lighting, which isn't usually found in non-luxury vehicles. Lastly, you have a variety of camera angles, including a top view and front-facing camera, providing much-needed visibility when backing in and out of spots. Below, you'll have haptic feedback buttons for your drive mode selector, climate control menu, and park assist features that quickly get you to the selected menus. Then as you make your way towards the center console, there'll be 2 USB-C inputs, and available is a wireless phone charging pad. Showing its relation to the GTI and Golf R it shares platforms with, the gear selector and push button start will be found on the driver's side of the center console. For the center storage compartment, there'll be enough room for smaller items, and rounding out the front seating area, above will be a panoramic moonroof, which lets in an abundant amount of light in the interior. Now moving on to the second row, we're going to start off on the passenger side, and this has been adjusted all the way back. It's on a bit of a recline, and I have a lot of legroom here to work with. Now, when it comes to legroom dimensions, you're looking at right around 37.6 inches of legroom, which would be on par with a lot of vehicles in this market. It's not a class leader, and a lot of it is because Volkswagen is prioritizing the third row seating area, but also the cargo space as well. For a vehicle of this size, this is more than adequate for a larger family, but also more importantly is that these seats do slide on rails. They can slide forwards and backwards to maximize legroom for the third row, but also for second row passengers as well. When it pertains to headroom, you have plenty of it, even with the panoramic moonroof. So I think if you have people on the height of 6 feet tall sitting back here, I don't think they'll be hitting their head on the headliner. Also, when it comes to shoulder room as well, a lot of interior space, so no one's going to be feeling claustrophobic. Then moving on to the center seat, you are getting some great placements for your feet. The center hump really isn't that aggressive at all, making it possible to fit a third person in the center, making the Atlas a true 7-passenger vehicle. There's plenty of shoulder room, and I think there's a lot of space here where you can easily squeeze in 3 small kids or maybe even 3 average-sized adults. Then on the driver's side, this seat is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have plenty of legroom where I can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the driving experience. Also, something too is that these seats do recline a bit by about maybe 5-10 degrees, but still, you can now relax, and while your driver is dealing with the horrible commuters out there on the roadways these days, you can have no care in the world. Also back here, you do have climate control to go along with 3 double heated outboard seats. You also can control where the airflow goes, which is great to see. Also 2 USB-C inputs and a 3-pronged outlet. Then to round out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. And then finally, taking a look at the third row seating area. Unfortunately, we do have to go handheld for this one because the cold weather got to my lapel mic. But back here, you're going to have right around 33.7 inches of legroom, which does outclass the Honda Pilot. So when you factor in that you are sacrificing some legroom for the second row, it does pay off in the long run. If your passengers in the second row are courteous and generous with their interior space, everyone should be comfortable in this vehicle. Obviously, with the third row, it's not going to be conducive enough to fit average-sized adults. This isn't a Cadillac Escalade or a Chevrolet Tahoe. But you can have smaller children in the third row, and they should be comfortable, especially since you do have a good amount of shoulder room as well. There's a lot of interior space for the third row, and that's why I do think that the Volkswagen Atlas is a solid pick in this segment, because it does go head-to-head with the Telluride, with the Honda Pilot, and also the Grand Highlander. So if you're looking for a vehicle that is a bit more upscale, a bit more luxurious, take a look at the Atlas, especially when it comes to the interior spacing and the overall comfort you're going to have here for this vehicle. Now, making our way around to the back, you are going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the third row seats, you're looking at right around 20.6 cubic feet of room, which would be identical to the Toyota Grand Highlander, but also is better than the Honda Pilot. There's this usable space where you can easily store a lot of items back here. Maybe you're going grocery shopping with the family, and you have all your kids in the second and third row. I think you could definitely fit all your groceries back here. I was able to fit all my camera gear, no problem. So that's 2 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod. And still had extra room for more camera gear, or maybe if I was going to run some errands, I could fit stuff back here. Also, you will have some compartments on both sides of the rear cargo area, so that way you can fit some smaller items such as a couple water bottles, car detail equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. Then with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 55 cubic feet of room, which falls right in line with a lot of vehicles in this market. So if cargo space is a top priority for you, you want something a bit better than the Volkswagen Tiguan, and you're only using the Atlas as a 2-row SUV, you have plenty of space for everything you're carrying. So maybe you're going to the mountains to ski and snowboard this winter, you can fit all your stuff back here with ease. Then finally, with the third row seats folded, you're looking at right around 96 cubic feet of room, and that once again does fall in line with a lot of vehicles in this segment. So if practicality is what you're looking for, that's where the Atlas would be a better choice. Whether you are looking at a lower trim or you're just looking to upgrade over the Volkswagen Tiguan, that's where the Atlas might be the better choice between the two. Now you're also going to notice the indentations for the rear cargo cover, which is available on this model, and we do have one for this Atlas. So if you're like me and you have camera gear or anything else of value, you can leave them back here and have that peace of mind knowing that no one will be able to peek in and steal what you have. Then finally, once you're done, just press the button and the liftgate will close automatically. Alright, so we're now behind the wheel of the 2024 Volkswagen Atlas. Let's take this vehicle out for a quick test ride to see how it performs, how it handles, how it drives, how it compares to other vehicles in this market, and also see how it differs from prior model years that did utilize a V6. Now, since we are in stop-and-go traffic, might as well go over the interior layout of the Atlas while we're here. I love the fact that you do get a nice mixture of technology with this vehicle, but better yet, and this will be something that we'll be talking about quite a bit later on, is the fact that this doesn't feel like a Audi. that it doesn't feel like a cheap down version or like a stripped down version of an Audi Q7 or Q8. This feels like its own entity, and a lot of it is because the Atlas is built on the MQB platform. It's not built on the MLB Evo that we see from Audi. And if you put that into perspective, the MQB platform underpins the Volkswagen GTI. So that really showcases just how robust this platform really is, and the fact that they can upsize it and it still feels refined, still feels high quality and luxurious, definitely goes a long way. Also, we did switch Atlases, so I'm now in an SEL and not in an SEL R-Line, but I still have a head-up display, which is very easy to read. What I also like too is that you have plenty of shoulder room as well with a wide center console, so you're not going to be feeling claustrophobic behind the wheel of this crossover if you do have someone sitting next to you. When it comes to overall vision though, A-pillars are super thin, so you won't have any blind spots when you are approaching intersections or you're at red lights. Then taking a look at your side mirrors, they are massive, so I can see what's in my blind spots and what's behind me. And then taking a look out back, even though we do have 3 rows in this vehicle, I can see what's directly behind me. So a lot of vision here with the Atlas. While a lot of consumers in this market will be clamoring for an SUV that does feel sporty and athletic, the Atlas doesn't need to be that. All it needs to achieve is to be a more upscale vehicle than, say, a Honda Pilot, Jeep Grand Cherokee L, or maybe even a Toyota Grand Highlander. But more importantly, though, is the interior space, and really the Atlas kind of nails it out of the park in that regard. From a driving dynamics perspective, though, the handling is very nice. Also, with the 8-speed automatic transmission, the gear shifts are pretty smooth, relatively speaking. And the Turbo 4 gives you a good amount of torque and also a decent amount of horsepower as well. Keep in mind that when you look at the horsepower and torque figures, they're pretty much close to what we see with the Honda Pilot, and the Honda Pilot's using a V6. Now heading into these corners, nice fluid steering. It's not heavy or weighted like we see from, say, a Volkswagen GTI, but it is pretty nimble. But more importantly, the ride is very cushioned as well. It's a very comfortable driving experience being behind the wheel of the Atlas. Now, at around 40 miles an hour, you do feel the weight. You're going to be feeling some of that body roll. However, it does feel rather nimble for an SUV of this size. Now, in sport mode, you do feel that the steering input is a bit more weighted. Throttle response is more aggressive. But again, one thing to keep in mind here, this isn't a performance SUV. And while a lot of people say that the Atlas, especially the Atlas Cross, is more of a stripped down version of a Lamborghini Urus or Audi Q8, there's actually no relation. So the fact that it is built on a separate platform and buyers have that perception towards this vehicle certainly does go a long way, and I think that really helped out with the sales figures because the Atlas became the hottest selling Volkswagen in the United States, and a lot of that could be because of the practicality and cargo space. But because this is an American-made and an American-only SUV, or North American-only SUV, it's not going to have the same German handling and driving characteristics that we see from a Q7. That, to me, is probably the biggest difference and the distinction between both models, because you could probably say, well, why would I go with a Q7 when I could buy a Volkswagen Atlas? The Atlas is going to be a great pick for somebody that is looking to buy a vehicle at around $50,000 that has the creature comforts, that has the technology, but you're not spending $70,000. And to make that leap into the Volkswagen Audi family to the Q7, you're getting a completely different vehicle. With the Atlas, it's more comfortable, it's more family-oriented, it's a vehicle that you can definitely cross-shop with a Toyota Grand Highlander or Honda Pilot. What I am going to say, though, with the Volkswagen Atlas is that it's definitely more laid back than what we see from the Pilot, because the Pilot is V6 powered. Whereas this 4-cylinder, yes, it's very peppy with the Turbo 4, but it's not gonna be all-out aggressive even in sport mode. This is a vehicle that I think is a nice upgrade over the Volkswagen Tiguan in many ways, because not only is it more practical, more spacious, but it's also a bit more upscale as well. And for the Atlas, especially for the 2024 model, it feels more grand, it feels more premium, and this is a true flagship now. I think in the past you would look at the Volkswagen Atlas and say, all right, so it's just a bigger Tiguan. And I think Volkswagen executives would probably say that the fact that the Atlas became a hot seller and became the brand's bread and butter in a way was almost done by accident. But with Americans demanding larger vehicles right now, especially with everyone getting into the idea of living more of an outdoor lifestyle and also taking road trips, the Atlas became a great companion for that. And with 2024, you are going to get a more off-road oriented version, which kind of buys into all of that, but then goes head to head with what we're seeing from rivals with the Honda Pilot Trail Sport, but also even the Jeep Grand Cherokee L. So what the Atlas is giving you with it being a unibody chassis SUV is that you're getting a vehicle that feels classy, feels comfortable, but also feels conducive for you and your family. Now, since we are on these tight back roads here, let's talk about maneuverability for a minute, because for an SUV of this size, and if you are somebody that is hopping in from a Volkswagen Tiguan and you're wondering, oh, is this going to be too big of an upgrade? Is this going to be too much of a leap? Absolutely not. In fact, getting behind the wheel, it feels very natural. And its maneuverability, it does drive a lot smaller than it looks. Now, I'm not going to say it feels like a Tiguan necessarily, because a Tiguan is a bit more agile and a bit more nimble in the corners. But when you're just driving in the city or the suburbs, it's very easy to get adapted to. Now, on these tight bends and corners, the Atlas is taking them pretty well here. There's not too much of body roll, which is a bit of a surprise. But it does feel pretty quick. More importantly, for a vehicle like the Atlas, the braking is very strong. This provides a lot of confidence for sure. If you are skiing and snowboarding this winter, the Atlas is going to be a fun vehicle for you up on those mountain roads. So to quickly wrap up my time with the 2024 Volkswagen Atlas, what are my final thoughts and takeaways for this flagship from the brand, but also 3-row crossover? The Atlas is going head to head with some very big competitors right now. The Kia Telluride, the Jeep Grand Cherokee L, the Toyota Grand Highlander, and also the Honda Pilot. In this market, we're seeing vehicles upsize rather substantially. That it's not just in the sense of practicality, but these vehicles are also going up market. I don't think you would look at a Honda Pilot or a Volkswagen Atlas as being on a borderline entry-level luxury vehicle or premium luxury in the true sense of the word. But in 2024, especially for this facelift for the Atlas, we're seeing a vehicle that isn't necessarily a stripped-down version of an Audi Q7 or trying to be like an Audi in any way, shape, or form. But at the same time, this feels luxurious and grand from Volkswagen, and it doesn't just feel like a upscale version of a Volkswagen Tiguan. The fact that for the interior we have wood grain trim, we have that matched with the gloss black accents, or even the soft touch materials on the dashboard, and also these really nice seats, you're getting a grand experience at around $50,000 to $55,000. And while I think a lot of people are going to say, well, that's kind of expensive, but take in consideration that we're seeing prices skyrocket in the 2020s, and this almost feels like a value at just over 50 grand. And that's where I think Volkswagen has really hit it out of the park with the Atlas for 2024. From the exterior with the lighting, but also just the design as well. This is a very classy vehicle. And in the past, a 3-row crossover from a brand like Volkswagen, like Toyota, like Honda, would just be an upsized version of a RAV4, a Tiguan, or a Honda CR-V. And you can't look at these vehicles like that anymore. And with the Atlas more specifically, this vehicle is perfect for somebody who doesn't want to spend $60,000 or $70,000 to purchase an Audi Q7, but they also want the technology. They want the luxurious aspects to come along with a brand like Audi, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz without breaking the bank. And that's where I think the Atlas is a great piece of the puzzle, not only for Volkswagen, but also in this market in general. If you're looking at buying a practical daily driver for you and your family, and you want those creature comforts, I think you have to take a look at the Atlas, because in this market, I think the Atlas is most certainly on par with its competitors, but in some ways might be just a bit better. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.